All right, good morning and welcome to our third in a series of 3 webinars about applying for the Pinellas Cares Local Business Grant. Today's seminar will last about 30 minutes and will focus on submitting a complete application for this business grant. Once Mike Mydell, my boss, has completed the webinar, we'll ask for questions using the Q&A feature. If you look at the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A feature there. If you think of questions while we're going through it, please feel free to enter your questions there, and we'll make sure that we get to all of them at the end of the webinar. We'll end the session probably around 11 a.m. or when there are no further questions. And once we've completed all 3 of these webinars, this is being the third of the 3, we'll be posting them to YouTube so that you can go back and review them. Or if people have missed any of them, they'll be able to go back and take a look at that time. I want to thank everyone for joining us here today for submitting a complete application. I'm going to quickly screen share to show you where we're going to be, and then I'll have Mike join us. I'll have Mike say hello right now while I get the screen share going.
Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you on board today. One of the big things I want you to remember from this session is that the important thing is that you have a complete application, not that you're the first one to hit submit. It will take you a lot longer to get your funds and to get through the process if your application is not complete, because it requires more interaction with you on the part of the reviewers. If you have a complete application, they can just send it right through the process and get your check cut immediately. So keep that in mind as we're going through this process. Take your time, gather all the materials you need, and just be slow and deliberate, and you'll get the money a lot faster than trying to just be the first in the door.
Great, Mike, thank you very much. I am sharing my screen now, and I hope everyone can see it. Today, we're going to start at our FAQ page. You can get to our FAQ page by going to pced.org and then typing /CARES, C-A-R-E-S, F as in Frank, A as in Apple, Q as in Queen. CARES FAQ. That is a shortcut that will get you to this page. And then from here, we're going to scroll down. And I think most people find this page very helpful. What we've done is from our first round and second round, we've collected all of the most frequently asked questions and tried to answer them here so that you can get help immediately. If you need further help, you can scroll to the bottom of the page and you'll find our phone number and emails there for further help. So if we scroll down to apply online, right above it, you're going to see the sample application here. And this is just a sample. We're not going to use this to actually apply. We're going to use it as we walk through today, all of the steps that you'll need for the application. I'll click on it now, and I think everyone can probably see at the top here it says sample application. And with that, we will start. Again, I want to thank you for the questions and answers that are below in your box here. I see we're already getting some questions, and we'll get to those after we've completed walking through the application. Thank you very much.
Terrific. We are going to step through now. Again, this is a paper application. It doesn't look exactly the same as what you'll see when you go online to actually apply. All the information it is asking for is the same, but you'll see a little bit of a different format. The online application takes one section at a time and provides the questions for that section, and then you'll complete that, and then at the bottom of that screen you'll hit complete and continue, and it'll pop up the next section. So you'll take it one at a time and step through the entire process. There are 7 separate sections in the online database. And as you go in for the first time to complete your application and you say, I want to create a new case, a new application, you'll see a different screen that just has you type in the name of your case. And that case name can be anything. It's just an identifier. What we would prefer and what would help the review system out is to go ahead and put in your whatever you're doing business as. The name that the public knows you by is the simplest way for us to find you and to relate to your application. So please, as you enter that, it can be anything, but please go ahead and put in your business name. And then the first section you see, as we've scrolled past it, is just the overall overview of the program itself. So there's a general description of what is eligible, what isn't, and you'll see that. And that does count as one of the sections. We want to make sure that you've read that before you go through the rest of the application process. So once you've read that and you feel like you still qualify after looking over all of that information, then go ahead and hit complete and continue, and you'll be able to move on to the first section where we'll actually start filling in data. And the very first section you see will be determining the eligibility of your application, and particularly your business type, to the program itself. And again, in general, you can go back and look at our previous webinars that go into detail on eligibility. But in general, it's the restaurants, bars, and hotels and retail businesses that were forced to close by the governor's safer at home orders. And then this time, it is also people who sell directly to those businesses. So anyone that's a wholesaler or supplier to retail or hospitality is likely to be eligible. Now we'll go through it. It'll depend on a case-by-case basis, but in broad terms, that's who's eligible for this program. And you are eligible if you're a home-based business in this second phase of the program. So there's no requirement for a physical location. Now, when you see the application on the eligibility section, the first thing you're going to see is a pop-down menu for your general business sector. And Stacy will need to scroll a little bit up more toward the top of that form. You'll see that general business sector, and it will be a box on the online application, and there'll be a little arrow, and you can pull a drop-down menu. And from that menu, you'll check the broad categories of business that apply to you. And it'll be things like retail, manufacturing, services, and so on. And then once you've done that, there'll be another box to the right of it that'll be labeled eligible business type. And that also has a drop-down menu with a detailed description of the types of businesses that are eligible. Now, you've got to select one of the items from that list. If you don't see your business on that list, it is not eligible for the grant. So you could stop the program right there, and you don't need to go through the rest of the elaborate process here or attach any documents. You'll know right away that if your business is not listed in those types, you're not eligible. And then we go through, there's a series of check boxes here, and every one of these check boxes must be checked yes in order, you've got to be able to agree to that statement in order for the application to be eligible. So take your time here as well, and remember that if any one of these boxes, if you can't answer truthfully that this is true of your business, you won't be eligible, and you'll save yourself a lot of time by not going through the rest of the process. Now, the first checkbox talks about we've got to know that you've suffered economic damages due to COVID after March 1st of 2020. So that is critical. That is the basis on which the U.S. Treasury set this money aside. So that is the primary thing we need to know. You were hurt by COVID, and it affected you after that March 1st date. The second box is similar to those, but it's saying that you're not going to cover any expenses that were already covered by your personal or business insurance or that were reimbursed by any other federal program. So keep that in mind. Most of us by now, with 6 months of COVID, have had expenses above and beyond anything you would have benefited from say, a paycheck protection program, forgivable loan or whatever. But you do need to know that you've had enough damage that this money will not duplicate expenses you've already had covered from other sources. The third box talks about For this program, you have to have at least $4,250 in gross receipts showing up on your business tax return related to business tax income for this business that you're applying. So the minimum amount to receive any kind of funding is $4,250. And the most that we will allow is $3 million in gross revenues. Larger businesses are not covered by this program. It's intended to be a small business grant program. So you have to fall within that range for the income for your business as shown on your 2019 tax return. So that'll be that critical element there. Now, we're asking you to go ahead and fill that amount in. There'll be a fill in the blank there when you fill in the form online. So just take your 2019 gross sales number and put it in that blank. And we also have another program called a health and safety matching grant that is for our target industries. It would be for manufacturers, financial services, IT companies, corporate headquarters, call centers, and those types of businesses. And we can provide up to half of the money that you have spent on physical changes to your workplace because of COVID. So these would be partitions and walls, cleaning equipment like an electrostatic sprayer, and personal protective equipment for your employees. And what you would do is add up all of your receipts and submit those and submit a cover form with that information. And what we're asking for here, if you're applying for the health and safety matching grant, is to give us the sum total of all of the expenses you incurred as a result of making those changes to your physical workspace. Then on the fourth question is that the principal business address must be located within Pinellas County. Now this is critical. What we need is the place where you interact with your customers, and it might be your home if you're a home-based business, and that's fine, but it must be within the actual physical boundaries of Pinellas County. You could be in the unincorporated area or in one of the cities, it doesn't matter, but that place you interact with the customer has to be here. Now, your home can be located elsewhere. If you are you live in Tampa, but you own a restaurant in Pinellas County, it's that Pinellas County restaurant location that we're concerned about here. So you do qualify if you have your physical address for your business here, no matter where you live. And so keep that in mind. But we also do not allow you to use a UPS store or a post office box or a public storage rental unit where you just store materials as your primary business location in Pinellas County. It either needs to be your home or your place of business where you interact with the customers. So that's important. When you see the principal business address later in the application form, it has to be somewhere in Pinellas County. And then going to the fifth question, you have to have had, your business had to be an ongoing operation prior to October 1st of 2019. So this grant is intended to be for small businesses who were ongoing businesses prior to COVID and were stable and operating and had a good chance of continuing to operate if it weren't for COVID. So that's why that date has been selected, and we need to show at least substantial income in 2019 because, again, your grant is based on your 2019 income. So if it's only for 3 months, it won't be a lot of income, but if it's still above that $4,250 amount, you would be eligible to receive something. So keep that in mind. If you became a business after October 1st, you won't be eligible. Now, the exception to this is if you bought an ongoing business concern sometime after October 1st. If it were a restaurant that had been operating for years and you just happened to buy it after October 1st, we can accept a bill of sale as part of the documentation, and we will allow you to receive the grant as long as you meet the other criteria. So that is an option. Now, the next question is, as of February 29th, 2020, you still had to have your doors open. So you could not have gone out of business before the COVID pandemic began to have its impact and before the governor issued those orders. So that's what the February 29th date is all about. We want to make sure that you had income in 2020 and were operating. So moving down again to the seventh question that's on the screen. Stacy, we want to scroll down just a little so we can see the rest of it. The business is expected to be fully operational after the local and emergency orders are rolled back. So you are fully intending to be back in operation in the same or better fashion as you were pre-COVID, and you can check that box. Then that's what we're looking at. We just want to make sure that if you still happen to be closed now, you will be reopening in the future. Then on to the next one, the eighth question. We cannot provide a grant to a publicly traded company. So if you're registered on any stock exchange, you would not be eligible. And then nonprofit businesses of any kind, any 501c designation, that includes the 501c6 business organizations, it includes educational organizations, it includes private clubs and public charities. None of those are eligible in this round. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that if you're a 501c3 organization, a charitable organization, and your work evolves around providing food to those in need, providing housing to homeless people or those in danger of homelessness, providing behavioral health assistance, addiction assistance, or legal assistance to those with eviction problems, all of that could qualify through the Pinellas Community Foundation, and you would apply directly through that organization to be able to receive funding. But all other 501c3 organizations are not eligible for this grant. And the nonprofits are not eligible for this program either. So if you can't check that box, don't bother continuing with this application. Instead, go to the Pinellas Community Foundation website and they will help you. Looking down, the 10th question, the business does not have any current unpaid code enforcement liens or other liens or court fees. So if you have any outstanding taxes or fees or fines or a lien on your property because of taxes, fees, or fines, you will not be eligible. You will need to clear that lien before you complete your application. So keep that in mind. That can be done, and there is no hurry on getting it done, but in order to receive any cash grant, we have to have a clear history there on your liens and court fees. And then finally, if you have any conviction for financial mismanagement, a felony conviction within the past 2 years, or are currently serving a sentence, you would not be eligible. Now, this all has to do with financial crimes only, and but keep that in mind. If you're currently within 2 years of a felony conviction, that you will not qualify. So once this is the end of that first section that I was talking about. Well, the first section is the overview. This is the second section of the application. And if you can actually check every box there, then at the bottom of the online actual application screen, you'll see a box that says complete and continue. And you'll check that box and it will acknowledge that you have closed that section and you're moving on to the next section. Now, kind of a warning at this point, don't hit complete and continue until you've completely finished filling out that section of the form. Go back and check, because once you hit complete and continue, you will not be able to go back and change anything on that section of the form. Now, they also give you an option to save the form. So if you get halfway through and you get interrupted, you can save the document without hitting the complete and continue. And then you can come back later and pick up where you left off and complete filling out that section of the application and move on to the next. So the save function will let you come back. The complete and continue will not. Another important notice here, if you accidentally hit complete and continue, it's okay. You can continue with the rest of the application. What will happen is it will slow down your process slightly because the reviewer will have to get back to you to finish filling out that part of the application. But it can be done, and a reviewer will be in touch with you, and you will receive an email that is called a task, and they will ask you for that information that was missing, and you'll reply to that email and perhaps attach a document if you're asked to, and they will fill in the blanks or make note of the information you've provided, and you'll be able to continue to proceed. But again, slow and steady, making sure that it's correct before you're hitting complete and continue will be the best and fastest way to get through the process. The next section is a form to help you fill out a W-9 as required by the IRS. And our clerk's office needs a W-9 in order to cut the check. So this is a very important part of the process, and this needs to be completed accurately. The information on this form must match the information on your business tax return. So when you fill out this part of the application, you'll want to have your tax return right there beside you, and you'll put in the first question here where it says name of individual or the business name. That will be the name that actually appears on your Schedule C or your 1120 or whatever business tax form you have. It'll be that name that's on that line on your tax return. The second one is you're doing business as, or it could be your disregarded business entity if you're a parent-child relationship and you have multiple companies all operating under a single tax form. What you would put in the second box is the particular business entity that you are applying for. Now, this is a good time to tell you that if you own multiple businesses, you can apply multiple times. You are eligible for a grant for each separate physical business that you have. So if you have a parent company that owns several different restaurants, you would attach the parent company's tax return if it's a consolidated return, and then you would provide a profit and loss statement for each of the children that are in there, and each child company would have their own application, and right here in B2 would be the name that you operate that child under to the general public. So that's where you'd put that information. And then the business type, this will be, again, another drop-down menu, and this will be either like a sole proprietor or a partnership or an LLC partnership or LLC single owner or sole proprietor. It'll list all of the different types of legal business entities that are available under the tax code. So you will check the type. Select the type from that menu that matches the type of return that you supply to the IRS. So again, you'll be able, by looking at your return, you'll be able to pick the proper one out of that business type drop-down menu. And you'll notice even here on the application, there are some instructions for filling out the W-9 form. You can actually click on this sample email and go to detailed instructions on what goes in each box. So that is a tool that's available to you as well. The address that appears here on the W-9 form is where your check is going to be mailed if you are eligible for an award. It has to match the address on your 2019 tax return. So if you have moved since filing your 2019 tax return, we'll have to make note of that, and the reviewer will get back with you and put in the proper address. The best thing to do is go ahead and, if you've moved, put in your current address. The reviewer will catch that this doesn't match your tax return, and then they'll get back with you and we'll have to make a special note of that. But in most cases, you'll be using exactly the address that is on your tax form. Their taxpayer identification number is, again, the number that's on your tax return. Now, if you're a sole proprietor, that will be your Social Security number in all likelihood. And in other cases, you will likely have an employer identification number that was assigned by the IRS, and you'll want to use that number to indicate, on your W-9 to identify your business. So again, read the instructions carefully, but this is the number that appears on your tax return to identify you as the taxpayer, either your Social Security number or your EIN. Again, the bottom part then is just a certification of that you are filling in the correct taxpayer identification number, that you're not subject to backup withholding, which means the IRS wants a piece of any money that you receive before you receive it. And that would be true of this award as well. So you can't have an arrangement with the IRS where they are requiring a tax withholding from your income on the front end. And so that would be a check, and that would be if you've had issues with the IRS in the past. Most people are going to be fine with that. And then you must be a U.S. citizen or other U.S. person. So if you qualify under the tax law as a U.S. citizen, you can check that. Now that is the end of that B section. And again, on the online system, you would check the box saying complete and continue once you're sure that all of that data is filled out correctly. Then we move to the general information section. And this, again, will fill out some information about your company. The first thing is your principal business address. And now this is the address that must be in Pinellas County that I was referring to, and cannot be a P.O. box or other similar, address. It has to be where you physically do your business, where you do your work. And it can qualify as like a garage workshop type unit, but it cannot be a public storage facility where you're not allowed to actually conduct business there. You're only allowed to store goods there. So keep that in mind. But if you actually do business out of your home or out of a place of business in Pinellas County, that's the address you would put in that location. And then your business website address. This is very critical in identifying and allowing us as reviewers to determine whether you're truly eligible for the grant. And sometimes the codes in those drop-down menus are confusing, and they aren't accurately describing every business under the sun. So here it'll be important to have your website address, or if you've got a page on Facebook or whatever that describes your business, we just need a way to find out more information about your business to just confirm that you are eligible. And this will help you as well, because if you're uncertain, this is the place to put that information. The owner or representative contact information. This is who the reviewer will try to get in touch with if there are any questions about the return, about the application form. So again, first name, last name, your primary phone number, which phone number, could be your cell phone or a landline, whatever is the easiest way to reach you now during the COVID situation. And then your primary email, and again, the email address that's most available for answering any questions from our reviewer. And your business phone is separate. Now that would be if you have a standard business landline or what you advertise your business phone, put that there. But under your primary phone, make sure that's where we can reach you now, just in case your business is closed or you aren't there on reduced hours. So that's important. The date the business was established is, we just again want to make sure that was prior to October 1st of 2019, but you'll want to put that date in there. And then which grant are you applying for? There are three major subsections of the different types of grants that are all available through this single application portal. The first type is a target industry health and safety matching grant. And this is where I mentioned earlier that we'll match up to $10,000 of expenses that you've incurred to change your physical work environment. But this is only eligible to companies that are those corporate headquarters, manufacturers, IT companies, and the list is available through a link here. The important thing to remember is you will have to attest that over half of your business income comes from customers who are outside of the state of Florida. So even if you're in the right industry, if all of your customers are local, that will not qualify, and you'll have to attest to the fact that you have 51% or more of your sales from outside of Florida in order to be eligible. So keep that in mind when deciding which grant to apply for. The sliding scale local business grants are the primary type of grant that we're providing here, and this is kind of an expanded version of what we offered in our first round. But in order to qualify for the sliding scale grants, you must have between $17,000 and $3 million in gross receipts on your 2019 tax return. So this is for businesses that at least earned the $17,000. Now, there is another option for those who earn less than $17,000. We'll talk about that in a moment. But if you've, and it's a sliding scale, so there are several different tiers, and you will receive between $2,500 and $10,000, depending on the size of your gross receipts. And so that's the program that you'll select. If you have your 2019 tax return and you have everything that you need to apply for this grant, and you make more than $17,000, then by all means, that's the choice that you'll want to make. The other option is that if you make less than $17,000, but more than $4,250, you can apply for a microgrant through the Business Diversity or the Arts program. And you'll just select one here, and the reviewer will help you to determine, will actually assign you to either the Arts program run by Creative Pinellas or to the Business Diversity Grant Program that is offered by our Office of Small Business and Supplier Diversity here at the county. So someone will be back in touch with you to help you complete the rest of that application. But the key there is you'll want to use the micro grants if you have less than $17,000 of income, and if you have any problem coming up with a 2019 tax return. Now, before you will receive any assistance or funding from this program, you will have to have either applied for a formal extension with the IRS or applied an amended return for 2019 so that we can identify the amount of the award we're going to give you. So if you haven't filed your 2019 taxes yet, you will have to before the end of this program process. So keep that in mind. If you're not going to be able to send a return to the IRS, then you are not eligible for this program. But if you need help in completing that tax return or making changes to the return, then you can identify as being part of that Business Diversity and Arts Microgrant program, and we will help you. And we can even offer up to $800 of time with a CPA to help you complete that 2019 tax return. So that is an option for you. Now, that is the end of that section C. So again, make sure you've fully completed that before hitting complete and continue. And then this next portion of the grant will pop up. And this is where you tell us what you're going to do with the money that you receive. And these are all of the eligible uses of funds. And we just want to know in just brief description how you're going to utilize the funding, and there is an opportunity to say something about other uses of the funds. Be careful that they are eligible uses. It has to be COVID related, and it cannot be matching funds you've already received from insurance or from another federal source. So this section is fairly straightforward, and again, you'll go through all of that, fill it out completely before hitting complete and continue. Then the next section is the required documentation. And there's less required documentation this time around. What we really need is a proof of legal business operation. So we need to know, this will help us to know that you were legally operating prior to October 1st, and that you're fulfilling the requirements of either the local law or state or federal law. So this is kind of a tiered process. So the first thing we would prefer having as your proof of legal operation is a municipal business tax receipt. So this used to be known as an occupational license, but it's now called a business tax receipt. You have to go to your city hall and work with city staff, and sometimes you can do this online depending on the city. But you'll register with them. They'll want to know your business address, the type of business, and there's a sliding scale, small fee to register your business within that municipality. Now that will, the unincorporated area of Pinellas County does not require a business tax receipt, and there's a few small beach communities that do not require it. Those are listed on the online application, so you'll be able to see that. But if you don't have a BT, if you aren't required to have a BTR, you're not within one of those cities that require it, then you'll go to the next step, and the next choice is an active state business registration from the Florida Division of Corporations. Now, if you're anything but a sole proprietor, you are required, and a sole proprietor actually operating under your own legal personal name, so John Smith or whatever, if you're operating under a fictitious name, you need to apply with the State Division of Corporations. And there are several categories there. If you are actually a C Corp, an LLC, an S Corp, any kind of formal business organization, you are required to register with the state of Florida online. And easiest, it's called Sunbiz, S-U-N-B-I-Z is the way to look for it on Google. You can register there, you can do it online. If you've already done it, what we need is a screenshot of that active page. So you'll pull up your account from that Division of Corporations online and take a screenshot of it, and you'll attach that here to this part of the document. And you'll see a place on the online form to be able to upload that document. So one of the things you'll want to do before even beginning your application is go into Sunbiz and get that screenshot as a file on your computer, or get an image, a scan, or a photo of your business tax receipt and have that as a file ready to upload. Now, if you do operate under your own personal name, you don't have a fictitious name, you're located in the unincorporated area, so you're not required to have a business tax receipt. The next layer is if you are in a profession that is required to be licensed by the state of Florida. So if you have to register with the Department of Business and Professional Regulation in Tallahassee, then you'll make a copy of your license, and this could be like a hairdresser or a massage therapist or any number. There's 20 or 30 occupations that are required to register. So you'll just take, and you'll know if you're in that profession because you'll have done that, and you can just take an image or a scan of that document. That's what you'll attach if you're not required to have the other two documents. Now, another similar thing would be if you have a Department of Health certificate because you're a restaurant or you're a hotel that serves food, you can use that document. If you're a charter fisherman, you can use your Coast Guard captain's license. If you're a retailer, you can use your annual resale certificate from the Department of Revenue. There are many, many choices there. Now, if you're not able to, if you're not required to have any of that information, you can leave it blank, but the reviewer will have to go back to you and confirm that and document the fact that, yes, you're not required to have any of that information. So that is an option, but if you have any of those documents, it will greatly speed the process if you attach them to the document at this time. The next section of required documents is your business financial, and this is your tax form. So if you're a home-based business and you only report your income from your business as other income on your 1040 form, you can include that here. You'd actually have to include your 1040 form and identify the area that you are recording that business income. If you do a Schedule C for your business, as part of your 1040 form, you only have to attach the Schedule C. You don't have to include the rest of your 1040 form as long as you've got that business income recorded on the Schedule C. That's the only portion you would have to submit to us. And then if you're a corporation of any kind, a C Corp would use a Form 1120, an S Corp or an LLC would use a Form 1120S. We would need your entire form to be attached there. And then partnerships, the Form 1065, and these are all your normal IRS tax forms for your type of business and business entity type. And you'll just attach that at this point in the document. Now, again, if you don't have those items and you're applying for a microgrant program, you must be willing to file one of those documents before you'll be able to receive any funds from the grant. So if you're willing to do that, you can proceed. And but again, don't finish out this section until you've completely filled out at least those two documents. And then there's a checkbox in the next section down, so we'd be sure you've got everything. So you check that, yes, I've attached that proof of legal documentation, I've attached the business financials. And then if you are a health and safety matching grant, if that's why you're applying, and you're a target industry with 51% of your sales outside of Florida, there will be a special form that you'll be able to download from the online form. You'll fill out that summary sheet describing every one of your receipts that you received and the expenses that you are applying for reimbursement. And you attest to the fact that you are 51% or more of your income comes from outside of Florida. Then you will submit that form or upload it back into the system along with a scan of all of your receipts and invoices associated with that. So we would ideally prefer that to be a single scan document where you've got all of your invoices and proof of payment and the summary sheet on top of that, and that would be attached to the file at this time. And then finally, any additional documents that you would need, and that would be things that later on the reviewer may ask for, or if you have assistance, if you don't have a computer yourself and you're going to one of our navigators or coming to our Small Business Development Center for assistance in filling out that application, that's where we would attach a signed, with your actual physical wet signature on the application form, and we would attach that to the document at that point. This is also an opportunity if there's a reason why you did not complete your taxes, or if you purchased a business during the course of the year after October 1st, you can always attach a scanned document right here that's a personal note to the reviewer that describes your situation. And this would be a perfect place to do that. And that will help him or her to know more about your project before he comes back to you. But you can always upload any document and attach it right there to additional documents. So then at that point, when you've got all of those documents attached, you would hear that complete and continue and move on to the next section. And then this is the final section, where this is kind of the legal fine print. You'll need to go through all of this and be sure that you're able to attest that you agree to all of these statements. And this is our, you're not providing any fraudulent information, that everything that you provided is correct to the best of your knowledge. And so be sure to read all of that before actually signing the form. And you will fill out this form, and it's an e-signature. It is not required that you actually physically sign the form, but by checking that box, you will be e-signing the agreement and signifying that you do agree to all of those certifying statements. And so at that point, Again, you would hit the complete and continue, and then another opportunity will pop up, and you will have to hit a submit button. So when you see that final, once you filled out every section, you'll see a box that says submit. And that's the point when your application becomes live and it becomes available to a reviewer. Until you hit that button, it is just sitting out there. You can come and go as you please. Take your time to add things to the document. You can add things to a section that you have not hit complete on. So if you get partway through a section, hit that save button at the bottom of the section. You can go away and come back in, a week later even, and you'll just come back into the portal, use your case ID number that is assigned when you start your application, and you'll be able to find your case and pick up where you left off. So the important thing is when you start your application, in the very first screen, you're going to be assigned a case ID number, and it'll be a 5-digit number. You'll want to write that down so you can easily find your case again and be able to go back to it and finish completing the form. And then also you can use that case ID number after you have submitted the document to check on the status of your application review. And there'll be several statuses there. You can watch it as it goes through the process. The frequently asked questions file contains a description of every one of those statuses, so you'll be able to know exactly what's going on. But the fastest way to identify, where am I in the process, is to go in again, use that case ID number, and look at the status. I know that's a lot to dump on you there, but we needed to be able to run through every single question in the form so you've got a feel for what's out there. And then again, the best way is to have all of your documentation already scanned and ready in your computer before starting that application process. And then it shouldn't take you very long to complete it if you've got everything handy. With that, I'm going to turn it back to Stacy and see what kind of questions we have.
Great. Mike, thank you very much. That was very thorough, and hopefully it'll help more of our applicants get through the actual application successfully. And I want to remind everyone that after we've completed this third webinar today, we'll post all 3 webinars at the YouTube channel. With that, let me get into our questions and see what we have here. So our first question is so relevant. Did you post the second webinar on YouTube? I don't think it's there. So after today, we'll post all 3 there, and you'll be able to get to them, and we'll move forward. You can review them. The first one will take you through the overview with Mike Meidel, our Director of Pinellas County Economic Development, talking about the overview of the CARES program. The second will help you to gather all the documents necessary. And then the third that we've had here today will walk you through the application. Our next question is, can you tell me the deadline, please, to apply?
Yeah, there is no hard and fast deadline right now. What we're going to do is see how quickly the funds are being utilized. Probably around mid-October, we'll take another look at where we are in the process. Based on the types of eligible businesses and our database of who's out there in Pinellas County, we don't anticipate running out of funds. So there's not a rush to try to get in before the money is gone. But please do try to get in within the next few days or weeks, and that'll help us to get an idea of whether we can reutilize the money in other areas, because we've got a limited amount of money from the federal government. We want to be able to get it out to people in need. So we do encourage you to fill out that application, but there is no hard and fast deadline. Other than the federal government requires that we spend all of this money by December 30th, but we'll be looking at the funding long before then. So please don't take months to do it, but there's no rush to get it done at this time. And if we do set a deadline, which will be likely at some point in the future, we will make that known to the general public through press releases, and it'll be available on our website. So the pced.org/cares website will indicate if we've started to have an actual deadline for applications. But for now, it's an open time period.
Thank you. Mike, thank you very much. And thank you for reinforcing that. If we do have a deadline, we will notify most of the applicants that are in the system by email, and we'll additionally put something on our website. So I'd like to encourage anyone else here with us today. There, right at the bottom of your screen is a little Q&A. If you'd like to put a question in there, we'd like to answer it. If you have any questions regarding the previous 3 webinars, we will answer them today. So please don't hold back if there's something else that you've been wondering about and you've just joined us today. Additionally, I'd like to open the phone lines. Anyone who's joining us by phone, if you could press *6 to unmute yourself, I'll be happy to recognize you, and Josh will help me with that, and we can answer any questions too. So please utilize the button, the Q&A section at the bottom of the screen, or hit *6. And thank you. We have an additional question. So let's go over again. We'd like to go over again, please, how to find the sample application. So I will let Mike talk about it while I share my screen with you. One moment here.
Sure. Again, the key to finding really pretty much anything is that PCED, which is Pinellas County Economic Development, the initials for that, .org/cares. And that is kind of our main portal. And as you scroll through that document, you'll be able to find links to just about everything you want. That's where you'll find your frequently asked questions. And as you scroll down, the quickest way to find the application form is to look for that Apply Online button, because that really pops out. And that is where you can go directly to apply. But immediately above that, you'll see that sample application. So that'll take you directly to the form we just went through.
Okay, Mike, thank you very much. And just to reiterate, that page you can get to from the FAQ. So as Mike said, the key is pced.org/cares, CARES. From there, you'll find our frequently asked questions. And from there, when you find the blue Apply button, you'll see where the sample application is located.
Great. Yeah, and you can get directly to that frequently asked question page by pced.org/cares FAQ. So you can skip one level and go directly to that page if you want.
Great. Any final questions, please ask below in the Q&A button, or *6 on your phone if you'd like to chat with us. Okay, seeing no additional questions, I'd like to just a final reminder that all of these webinars will be available on the Pinellas County YouTube page, and that link you'll be able to find at the CARES page. We'll put a link there to these webinars so that you'll be able to find them on our FAQ page. Thank you very much for joining us today.